operations with integers, we did adding and subtracting. If you are at the point where you can look at this and get the answer, great. You just go, I know -4, I add 6, I get 2. Excellent. If that doesn't come right away, or if you're saying, sometimes I'm still making mistakes, I'm like, oh, I wrote -2, I knew it was 2, or maybe I wrote 10. If we're having issues with that, remember, we can always think about it, and sometimes even when we do it in our head, starting at -4, this is my starting point, and I'm going up 6, adding 6 means I'm going in this direction. 1, 2, 3, 4 gets me back to 0. Excuse me. And then 2 more gets me to 2, and I've gone 6 in that direction to get to 2. So our number line can help us get that now, get the answer. But if we can do it, visualize that in our head, that's fine as well. But all of this practice gets us to be able to do these things faster. So when we get another question, oh, skipped one. -13 plus -7. Get an answer in your head. I'll put down the answer, and then we'll talk about the number line and think about that, what that means. So you got an answer in your head? -20. How does that work with the number line? Okay, we're starting at -13. I'm going to put my 0 way over here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. There's -13. There's our starting point. Now it says add, so we initially think that we're going this way, right? Because adding goes to the right. But then we add a negative. A negative always does the opposite. So this, oh, watch this, ready for this? Check it out. The negative makes it go in the other direction, so we're going to go 7 back in this direction. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. That gets me to -20. We also remember that adding a negative then, since it's going back is the same as subtracting. This is the same as -13 minus 7. But some things that are, interesting for me, 13 plus 7 is 20. -13 plus -7 is -20. So when you're adding two negative numbers, it's very similar to adding two positive numbers. 5 plus 2 is +7. If I did -5 plus -2, I'd get -7. For these questions so far, when I click to the next slide, am I going too fast? We're all good? -7 minus -4. So again, get an answer in your head. You know what's the nice thing about getting an answer in your head? Right? There's no embarrassment if you get it wrong, right? But if you do get it wrong, then your brain should say, okay, pay extra attention this next part because I got that wrong, so what am I doing wrong? How can I fix it? -7, subtract -4. -3. Okay? What happened? Well, here's our number line. Here's 0. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. We're starting at -7. It says subtract. So we initially think we're going this way. But then we hit a negative. Negative does the opposite. You like the sound effect? Did you hear it as it turned? Okay, good. The negative does the opposite. It goes in the opposite direction. Now we're going 4 this way. 1, 2, 3, 4. Here's our final answer at -3. And so because subtracting normally goes backwards, but a negative does the opposite, subtracting a negative is the same as adding. And so we end up with this is the same as negative 7 plus 4. Now, some people will do that automatically. I've seen students say, oh, plus. They write that in their notes. Scribble right over top of it, make it a plus sign. Yes? Okay. So we make it into a plus sign. Again, that's where I like this because I get to do my sound effects again. I'll erase this arrow. When you get to the subtract sign, subtract means go this direction. Right? Adding means go to the right, subtracting on your number line means go to the left. But whenever we hit a negative number, that negative number always goes in the opposite of what you had before. So if I'm subtracting and that's going this way, but I'm subtracting a negative which changes it to the opposite direction, that's where I rotated this and it switches it to that direction. And since it switches it to that direction, well, that direction's the same as adding. And so what some people do is they say, well, once I realize that subtracting a negative is the same as adding, it's just quicker for me to go, oh, this is adding, and then I just have to think once going in the right direction. But in order to understanding that helps us with a lot of our integers. Because a lot of times with integers, people are just like, oh, I'm confused on which direction we're doing. So you gotta like I was on a list of for 3 days to get a hug, and so if you want to, you have to put your name on the list, and then you get the hug when it comes along. Okay. All right. Ooh. Multiple numbers. 25 minus 13 plus a negative 6 minus 7. I think I'll give you more than 1 second to figure this one out in your head. Okay? You got an answer? I'll put it up in a bit. You can just keep it. You can keep it in your head. Or if you want to check with somebody else, that is perfectly fine. I mean, one of the things that we want to start to realize in math is it's about learning, and one of the best ways to learn is you will make mistakes. So a confidence thing that you can start to do is say to the person next to you, I got 83. I hope nobody got 83. I made up that number. The answer is not 83. But if you did, your friend would go, no, I think it's this. And then you start to argue, have a math argument, and through that, you'll probably learn something, they'll probably learn something, and you'll both be smarter as a result. So if you have an answer, the answer is negative 1. How do we get that? Well, we start at 25. Oh my goodness, did I have to pick such a big number? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25. Oh, and I went in the wrong direction. This is where your eraser comes in handy. What should I do? 0. There, that would make this one. If I went 25 in the wrong direction, that would make 25 in the right direction. So we're starting at 25. And especially when you get to numbers like 25, it's kind of like, oh, I can see why I want to get a technique to be able to do this without having to draw a number line every time, because it takes a long time. And if I can do it faster by visualizing the number line without having to draw it, that could be good. Or maybe we do parts of it at a time. And I'm going to talk about that in a second. But first of all, we have 25 minus 13. Subtract means go this direction, I'm going to go back 13. When I go back 13, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You end up right here at 12. So now 25 minus 13 gets us to 12. Now we have 12 plus a negative 6. Adding normally would go this way, but the subtraction goes opposite. So we're going to go this way again. And maybe you even scribble that out and just put subtract sign there, because you know that that's the direction you're going to go. Now we're going to go back 6 again. And now we're at 6. And now we would have 6 minus 7. 7 goes back again. I have to add another ticking mark. Final answer is at minus 1. So you're like, Mr. JR, this is more work because we had multiple things. If I make one mistake along the way, I'm going to get it all wrong. What can I do to show that I know that I'm doing some things right? Well, what we might do is work a little bit along the way. So first of all, what did we do? We did 25 minus 13. If you know that's 12, you can rewrite everything. 12, and the plus and minus I know is the same as subtracting. So 12 minus 6 minus 7. Still don't know what that equals. But I've simplified it a little bit. And then I can simplify it a little bit more. I can say, I know what 12 minus 6 is. 12 minus 6 is 6. Then I get 6 minus 7. And at this point, I'm like, oh, it's minus 1. Okay. And so we get our answer.